All right, Rabbi, good morning. Good morning. Let us begin. Begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning's shir. To thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the year of Tafshin Pehei, the Tilson Mishpacha, for dedicating all the shiurim and drashos as a zechus for besuros, tovos, for Am Yisroel, to continue to see This is great, by the way. Everybody's closer together, so there's like a lot more Hashem. So we should continue to see. All right, now it's really enough. Now it's enough. Okay, quiet down. Hey, so it is a zechus Baruch Hashem to continue to see those besuros tovos unfolding for Klal Yisrael. We should be zochem Hashem to see them continue in the days ahead. Our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Teves, the Kelman Mishpacha, in memory of Amit Ben David Levy, brother of Itay Levy, who was killed fighting in Gaza on the first night of Chanukah. We hope that on the merit of our Talmud Torah, the precious Hashem will have an aliyah and the family in a chama. But with that, let us begin. We have a lot to do today. Some really great Gemara today as we embark. Upon Baruch Hashem, another incredible journey. Let's go. So today's daf is Lamed Vav 36. We are picking up in Meretz Hashem on Lamed Hey Amud Beis 35b. And I believe we left off with Amar Abaye, which is 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 lines up in the bottom. So Abaye says as follows. Amar Abaye, Hashda da Amrit Ein Ritzicha Doches HaShabbos. And I will say, so remember again, very interesting and really riveting discussion yesterday's daf, about the concept that Ritzicha, capital punishment, is not Docha Shabbos. So Beis Din cannot execute someone on Shabbos. Now that we've established that, remember again, that was the last drasha of yesterday's daf of Moshvo Sechan. So the Gemara says, now that we've established that, so the Gemara says, Mikal v'chomer. I'm sorry. Hashdada amret in Ritzicha dochas haShabbos, in Ritzicha dochas ha'avod Mikal v'chomer. So Abaye says we should be able to make an additional limud that tells us that capital punishment is not docha avoda either. Now again, Rabbi said, what does that mean? That capital punishment is not docha avoda. So we saw this case. There's an explicit pasuk that says that if a person will go ahead, v'chi yozid ish are'ehu laharga, if a person will intentionally kill someone else, which literally means, from my altar you shall take them to die. Now what is that referring to? So the Gemara says that's referring to a Kohen who killed someone. And even if a Kohen who killed someone is doing the avodah, we go ahead and we take him from the Beis Hamikdash, we take him from the Mizbeach, and we go ahead and we execute him. Now, we saw that it's not exactly like that, that more it's as if he's about to do the avodah, we stop him from doing the avodah. If he's engaged in the avodah, we'll discuss, might be certain circumstances where we let him finish the avodah. But the idea over here is that the Gemara has been espousing that Ritzicha, capital punishment, is docha avodas. Now, Abaye wants to say, now that we've established that capital punishment is not docha Shabbos, so we should also be able to learn that capital punishment does not set aside avoda. Mikal v'chomer, what's Mikal v'chomer? Uma Shabbos shenitchis v'nei avoda ein ritzicha docha osa. Now, in general, again, avoda sets aside Shabbos, right? Because you could do sacrificial service. You do Beis Hamikdash service on Shabbos. So ma Shabbos shenitchis v'nei avoda ein ritzicha docha osa. So on one hand, even though Shabbos is docha avoda, but yet capital punishment is not docha Shabbos. So the Gemara says, therefore, avoda she docha Shabbos, eno din shleit tehei ritzicha docha osa. So if that's the case again, avoda, which is docha Shabbos, so capital punishment should not be docha avoda. That's the kal v'chomer. Elo hadichsiv me'im mizbechi tikachen alamos. So here's the problem. So I hear the kal v'chomer. I definitely hear the kal v'chomer. But what do you do with the pasuk? Because the pasuk definitely indicates that capital punishment is docha avoda. So what do you do with that? Hahula karban yochid delo dochi Shabbos. Oh, so what is that talking about? This is very interesting. When do we say me'im mizbechi tikachen alamos? If a Kohen was involved in offering up a private sacrifice, a personal sacrifice, in that kind of case, so Ritzicha, capital punishment, will be docha the karban. But in another general sense, if he's involved in other karbanos that are not personal karbanos, ultimately again, so Ritzicha, capital punishment, will not be docha that avoda, and the rayat to that is because that type of carbon, a personal carbon, is not docha Shabbos. In other words, it's very important we know this. When we say that avoda is docha Shabbos, right? That avoda sets aside or trumps Shabbos. So remember again, what does that mean? That's communal sacrifices, right? You can't offer up your personal karbanos, and chatas, and asham, and nidarim, the tovos, right? You can't do those things on Shabbos. So maybe me'im mizbechi tikachen alamos is talking about a carbon yachid. If a kohen who's chayiv for a capital punishment will go ahead and is doing a personal carbon, then ritzicha is docha that, and that's not docha Shabbos either. To which the Gemara says, Rava says no. Lo tehei ritzicha docha carbon yachid mikal v'chomer. The truth is, capital punishment shouldn't even be docha carbon yachid from a kal v'chomer. Now, what does this mean? That Rava wants to suggest that even if a kohen is offering up a private carbon, halacha l'maisa, capital punishment should not override his ability to do so. What's the kal v'chomer? Top of Amid Vav 36a. Ma yomtiv shenitcha mipnei carbon yachid. So you will say now yomtiv is set aside by even personal karbanos. Now, we're going to talk about this is a raging debate. But the Gemara Rav is espousing it as fact, which is that on Yom Tiv you could even offer up private karbanos. For example, again, I will say this is actually a very important halacha because the person comes to the Beis Hamikdash for Aliyah L'Regel, right? On Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos, Halavai will be Zochem Eretz Hashem Hira B'Yameinu. So what happens? So I have all of my personal karbanos that I have to bring, right? Nedar and Davos, different things like that. So Rav says on Yom Tiv you're allowed to bring personal karbanos. So yet ein ritzicha docha also, but yet Yom Tiv, but capital punishment cannot be carried out on Yom Tiv. So in other words, capital punishment can't be docha Yom Tiv. So the Gemara says, Carbon yachid shudocha say yamtiv eno din shlotei ritzicha docha also. So I'll say so essentially like this: if carbon yachid could be docha yamtiv, right, and capital punishment is not docha yamtiv, so then capital punishment shouldn't even be docha a carbon yachid. So it's solid limud. To which the Gemara says that's fine. So again, the previous understanding works well if you hold that personal karbanos cannot be offered up on Yom Tiv. But if you hold that they can be offered up on Yom Tiv, then einachinami, what do you do with Rava's kal v'chomer? Ella Amar Rava says, "Lo mi boy leman da Amar nedam nedavas krivim yamtiv dahalo miskayme imiz bechi klal." So I'll say. So Rava says like this. It goes without saying that according to the opinion that says that nedarim and nedavas can be offered up on yamtiv, so then again you have a problem with understanding the pasuk of me imiz bechi tikachen alamos. But according to even according to the opinion who says that you can't offer up karbanos, private karbanos on Yom Tiv, the Gemara says, Haksiv me'im mizbechi. What do you do with that pasuk? To which the Gemara answers, Me mizbechi hamiyuchad li. It means that if a kohen is going ahead and doing the avoda, which avoda? If you notice, Bible say it doesn't say me'im hamizbeach tikachenu lamos. Right? If a kohen is involved in avoda, you should even take him from the mizbeach to be executed. Rather, what does it say? Me'im mizbechi tikachenu lamos. Ultimately, again, take him from my mizbeach to die. What's my mizbeach? The Gemara says tamid. Umay ninhu tamid. So we'll say, so what is it exactly that the Torah is referring to? It's saying like this, even if the kohen is involved in my mizbeach. What's the example of my mizbeach? The carbon tamid, communal offerings. Even if he's involved in communal offerings, then halacha l'maisa, even with that, we go ahead and take him from the mizbeach, ultimately again to be executed. Okay, so I'll say, so takeaway from all of this is that halacha l'maisa, execution is not docha Shabbos and it's not docha Yom Tiv. It is docha avoda, so that even if you have a kohen who's actively involved in avoda and sacrificial service, and he's chayv a capital punishment, we will take him from the Beis Hamikdash and execute him. But that's presupposing, as according to what we're seeing now, he has not yet started the avoda. If he's started and in the middle, seems to be that we will let him finish, then pull him out to execute him. If he is engaged but has not yet actually begun, meaning he's just for the occasion, he's ready to go, but he has not yet actually begun, then ultimately we'll pull him out and execute him like that. Incredible. All right, let's go back there. So we'll say, remember again, if you remember, the Mishnah said like this: when it comes to dinei mamanis, monetary law, so halacha l'maisa, when we start telling the judges for their opinions, we start with the greatest judge first. The most most highly regarded judge first, get his opinion, then work your way to the we'll call it the regular chevra. In dinei nefashos, in capital cases, we start what's called min hatzad. Min hatzad means from the side. From the side means the lesser known judges, right? The lesser. I hate using the word lesser. Junior, thank you. Excellent, good. The junior judges, right? Sounds very condescending, right? The junior judges. We start from them from Dinei Nefashos. Okay, so it says the Gemara. So let's analyze. So Amarav, Ana Havai b'minyana debei Rebbe. So Rav says like this: I was part of the Beis Din of Rebbe. I was part of the Beis Din of Rebbe. Amarav, Ana Havai b'minyana debei Rebbe. Ominoi didi have maschili bereisha. So listen to this. Rav said, I was part of the Beis Din of Rebbe, and in Dinei Mamanis, they always started with me. They always started, right? They always asked my opinion first. The Gemara says, wow, v'ha anan maschili min hagadol tanan. But that doesn't make any sense. It says in the Mishnah that by Dinei Mamanis, we always start with the greatest of the judges. Bless you. And Rav was not the greatest of the judges in Rebbe's court. So, Amarabba, I just want to point out something absolutely amazing what's happening over here. Right? Do you understand like what just occurred over here? So the Mishnah says, when it comes to Dinei Mamanis, we always start with the greatest judge when rendering the decision. Rav says, I sat on Rebbe's Beis Din, and they always started with me for Dinei Mamanis. What is Rav essentially saying? Right? That the Mishnah, I guess the Mishnah is not, I guess we don't follow the Mishnah. Because I am not the greatest judge on Rebbe's court, yet by Dinei Mamanis, by monetary law, they always ask me my opinion first. But I'll say there's a tremendous Musar Haskell in life. In life, it is important to know what I am and what I'm not. And there is no shame in knowing what you're not. Sometimes we feel very inadequate when we acknowledge what we're not. Because we think it's shameful. I should be everything. I should be this. I should be not. No person is everything. No person has ala milas. No person has all the qualities. No person has all the necessary skill sets. No person is everything. And sometimes the most incredible thing and the path to self-actualization is not only to know what you are, but it's also to know what you're not. Because when I know what I'm not, I know what my deficiencies are, I know what my weaknesses are, and I know exactly where I need other people. Sometimes we like to put on the image that we're like full service. I'm a full service human being. Anything and everything that is needed, I can provide. But I can't. And none of us can. So there's such a profundity in this, right? Rav is saying, I know I'm a good guy. I know I'm a good guy. But I also know with absolute certainty, I am not the greatest person on Rebbe's Beis Din. And that's okay. I don't have to be the greatest person on Rebbe's Beis Din. I just have to be the greatest Rav. Rav has to be the greatest Rav. That's why we spend so much time trying to pretend that we are everything to everyone. But I can't be. Instead, know what I am, know what I'm not, and maximize my personalistic identity. So profound. Amar Rabba. So what's going on over here? But the Shaila is how do we reconcile this? So Amar Rabba, Breid Rabba, Vitema, Rebbe Hillel, Breid Rebbe Valis, Shiny Minyana de Rebbe, the Kulu Minyanayo Minatzad Havamaskali. The Beis Din of Rebbe was different. Why was the Beis Din of Rebbe different? The Beis Din of Rebbe was different because Rebbe was incredibly humble. So even though Rebbe, obviously this was the Beis Din of Rebbe, which means who is the ranking sage on the Beis Din of Rebbe? Take a wild guess. Right? Rebbe. Yet, in all of the cases of Rebbe always started from the junior judges. That's what he did. That was an exercise in Rebbe's humility. Rashi says over here, Minatzat havemaschili mipnei anova yisera shahaisabo. Rebbe was exceedingly humble, so therefore he always started in every case, even monetary cases, with the junior judges. That's why Rav says, again, I sat on Rebbe's Beis Din and halacha l'maisa, and we always started with me. Incredible. Va'amar Rabba Breid Rabba v'Itay Rabbi Hillel Breid Ravalis. Most incredible Gemara. So now that we started talking about Rebbe a little bit and Rebbe's Beis Din, so the Gemara says as follows: Mimos Moshe va'ad Rebbe lo matzinu Torah u'gedula b'makom echad. Listen to this. From the days of Moshe Rabbeinu until the days of Rebbe Yehuda Hanasi, we never found individuals who had both Torah and Gedula in one place. Now, what does that mean? Take a look at Rashi. Rashi's right across. B'makom echad. Rashi says, Torasan ugdulasan shayisa b'makom echad. So, Torah, I understand. Torah knowledge. What does Gedula mean? So, Rashi says over here, She'ein kamosa b'chol Yisrael, b'Torah u'b'Gedula, kigon Moshe, shaya gadol al kol Yisrael b'malchus ubetorah. Oh, so what it means is like this. Gedula means authority. Gedula means authority, like malchus. So what the Gemara is pointing out is like this. Let's start with Moshe Rabbeinu. What was unique about Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu, we've seen this before. Moshe Rabbeinu had the status not only of a Navi, right, but had the status of a Melech. He had the status of a king. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu, interestingly enough, used chatzotzros, right? When he wanted to gather the nation, they used trumpets, like they would use for a king. When Moshe Rabbeinu died, they put away the chatzos. Yoshua did not use the chatzos. So again, Moshe Rabbeinu was a Melech. See, so on one hand, he was a Rebbe, and he was a Melech, right? See, he was the Torah authority, but he was also the authority figure. So generally, you don't have those two things consolidated in the same person. By the way, this is often by design. We even see this with the Shuvim, right? Whose authority? Yehuda, right? Shkoyach, right? He's Yehuda, right? Yehuda is Malchus, right? Who's spiritual? Who's Torah? Levi, right? So it's interesting. And by the way, this is by design, that Ramban points this out, that by design there is often a split in what we'll call religious leadership and what we'll call authority or political leadership, right? There's a split that's there. But nevertheless, you find, the Ramban points out, this is what was unique about the Chanukah story, that the Chashmonaim, who were the Kohanim, also became the king. So whether or not that was a good thing or bad thing is an interesting historical machlokes, but it was the first time that you had the monarchy in the hands of spiritual leadership as well. So the Gemara just points out over here that rarely do you find an individual who has both Torah and Gedula, ranking Torah authority and also, again, final authority on everything else. So the Gemara says, from the days, so there were two people, Moshe Rabbeinu had it, and Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi had it. And in between the two of them, listen to this, there was never another person who consolidated like these two seats of authority within one identity. It's incredible. The Gemara says, really? V'lo? Ha-Yoshua hava. Ha-Yoshua Yoshua. What about Yoshua ben Nun? Right? Yoshua ben Nun was the ranking Torah sage, and Bepashtas, he was also like the Melech, he was also the king. To which the Gemara says, no. Hava Elazar. There was Elazar, was the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol. So again, Yoshua had a lot of authority, but it wasn't singular authority. Hava Pinchas. What about Pinchas? Hava was the king, they were the elders. Hava Shaul. What about Shaul? Shaul was the first king. He was also great Talmud Chacham. So the Gemara says, Hava Shmuel. There was Shmuel and Ravi. Hava Nafshayu. But Shmuel died. Right? Shmuel died. To which the Gemara says, Kula Shani Kamina. It means all the days of one's authority that they had consolidated authority. In other words, all of the days that Moshe Rabbeinu was an authority figure, he had both Torah authority and what we'll call absolute authority. All of the days of Rebbe, he had Torah authority. It was never shared during any point of his lifetime. Quite incredible. Vaha Hava David HaMelech, David Malcolm Mashiach, Hava Ira Hayiri. There was Ira Hayiri. Who's Ira Hayiri? So if you look at Rashi, Ira Hayiri, B'moed Katan Aminan Dahavi Masnil Hu Rabbanon Agabe Karan V'Kistos, the David Haya Manhigo Alav L'Rosh. So he was one of David's Rebbeim. Ira Hayiri. So isn't that incredible that even David HaMelech did not have this idea of consolidated authority, of Torah authority, political authority, or absolute authority all in one, which is incredible. So Moses says, but Ira Hayiri died. So there was a point in time, there was some time that David HaMelech had both the Torah and Gedula. Kulu Shanye Kamrinan. It means all of the years. In other words, what's unique about Moshe Rabbeinu and Rebbe is that all of the years in which they were in a leadership capacity, they had this absolute Torah and what we'll call political authority. No one else had it all of the years of their leadership. Hava Shlomo. What about Shlomo HaMelech? Hava Shimi Ben Gera. There was Shimon ben Gera, Vaha Katle, but Shlomo had Shimon ben Gera executed. Once again, Kula Shanye Kamrinat. It means ultimately, again, all of the days of leadership. Again, we're looking for the unique part over here that Moshe and Rebbe, all the days in which they were leaders, they had this absolute authority. What about Chizkiyahu? We're just talking about Chizkiyahu. So we learn about Chizkiyahu. Hava, Shevna. Remember again, we just had this story just a little while ago with the siege on Yerushalayim. Shevna, remember again, had even a bigger share. Had 120,000 people learning with him. So there was Shevna. Vaha Iktal, but Shevna was killed. right? Shevna was killed. To which the Gemara says, no. Once again, Kula Shanya Karminon. We're talking about people who enjoyed absolute authority all of the days of their leadership. Vaha Hava Ezra. But again, there was Ezra. So the Gemara says, Hava Nechemya ben Chachalya. All right, Ezra also had Nehemiah. So we'll say, just a fascinating insight over here. That generally, again, you don't really have one person who has all of the tools of leadership at his disposal. But what was unique is, so between Moshe and Rebbe, again, there were no two other people, right? Moshe and Rebbe were unique. There were no two other people who had all of the tools of leadership at their disposal during all of the years, both Torah as well as Gidula. Between Moshe and Rebbe, no one else had it, which I will say tells you something very important. Now, you ask yourself, okay, it's historically fascinating, but like, what does it matter to us? What exactly is the impact of this? So there is I think that there is an incredible profundity in this, which is, what it shows you is, from a leadership capacity, a person doesn't have to have all of the tools at their disposal in order to be successful. Right? So if you notice again, so if you look at Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Moshe Rabbeinu has all the tools, right? To have that level of absolute leadership means you could control all of the pieces on the board. Right? Rebbe, you could control all of the pieces on the board. What you begin to see is, in life, you don't have to control all of the pieces on the board to be successful. There's an ability to exercise your influence in the areas in which your influence can be felt and be profoundly successful in that. All of these other personalities, David HaMelech. So apparently, David HaMelech did not have absolute authority. He had Torah authority and he had absolute authority during certain stages of his life, but not during all stages. So apparently, you could be the founder of a dynastic monarchy and the father of the messianic line, even if you don't have all of the tools of life at your disposal. So often we think, or we excuse non-accomplishment and non-self-actualization because we think, I don't have all of the necessary ingredients, I don't have all the necessary tools, and we give ourselves a pass, right? Or we don't push ourselves as much. And here the Gemara comes along and says, you can accomplish a lot with whatever tools you have at your disposal. You have a lot, you have a little, take the toolbox that Hakadosh Baruch Hu has given you and do something great with it. Incredible. So the Gemara says, Omer Avad Bar Ava, Afani Omer. Avad Bar Ava says, I want to get in on this. I also want to add something over here. Afani Omer, Mimos Rebbe ad Ravashi, between the days of Rebbe and Ravashi, Lo Matzinu Torah Ugidula b'makom echad. So we'll say, so now what we're going through is the generations over here. So between Moshe Rabbeinu and Rebbe, we've never found two other people other than those two who had both Torah and Gidula in one place. So the Gemara says, so now comes on Ravashi. Ravashi says, by the way, Ravad Bar Ava says, from the days of Rebbe until Rav Ashi, we also, Lo Matzinu Torah Ugidula b'makom echad. We never find again two other individuals who both have Torah and Gidula concentrated in one personality. Hello? Really? Vaha Hava Huna Bar Nasan. What about Huna Bar Nasan? To which the Gemara says, Huna Bar Nasan make of Hava Kayif L'Ravashi. Huna Bar Nasan ultimately again was subservient to Ravashi. So he did not have Torah Gidula in one place. So we'll say, so again, just fascinating Gemara. Take away lesson from both of these Gemaras, from the Moshe to Rebbe Gemara, as well as from the Rav Gemara on the basin of Rebbe, is that halacha l'maisa, no person is everything. There are certain people maybe who are everything, who have the full package. Most of us are not. But take the tools that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given you, know what you have, know what you don't, take what you've been given and accomplish something great. Incredible. Let's go weiter. Says Mardina Nefashas Maschilin Minatzad. So on the other hand, remember again, in capital cases, we dafka start from the junior judges. Now again, there's a good logic for that. What's the logic for that? In a capital case, what's going to happen if you start with the senior judge? What's going to happen? Right? If you're a junior judge and you see the senior judge paskin, in a certain way, you're like, I'm not going against that. Not in a capital case. Not in a capital case. The stakes are too high. So the problem just is, you'll never really end up getting the actual opinions of the junior judges. So instead what we do is, dafka, by capital cases, we start from the junior judges and make our way to the senior judges. Says the Gemara. So from where do we know this? Amar Rav Acha bar Papa, Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Lo sa'ane al riv, lo sa'ane al rav. What it means is like this. Lo sa'ane al. Now what does lo sa'ane al riv mean? So literally again, so the lashon of the pasuk is, lo siach ram l'raos, lo sa'ane al riv, lintos, literally again, do not get involved in a fight, lintos, to slant it. Now we'll see exactly what it means. But for our purposes over here, the Gemara is darshaning, lo sa'ane al rav. Be careful about contradicting someone who is greater than you. Rashi says over here, lo sa'ane al rav, because remember, riv is written chasr without the yud. Lo sa'ane al rav, ksiv below yud, mashma, lo tachlok al mufla shel bezdin. In general, it may not be the best idea to get into an argument with the senior judge. Hilchach, lo maschalinan minei, del machaza leichova, v'lo palgina iluye, umaschilam min atzad. So ultimately, again, so therefore, the Gemara dashes lo san arav. Don't put a person in an uncomfortable position where they are arguing ultimately again with a senior judge. Okay, so Gemara says, Rabbi Bar Bachana, Amar Yochanan, Mehacha. This is incredible. Vayomer David LaAnash. David Amal said to his guys, said to his men, Chigru ish escharbo, v'yachgru ish escharbo. So David says, literally again, my favorite biblical words. Gird. Nothing. It's usable in so many different contexts, right? Right? Children, gird yourselves. We're getting in the car, right? Whatever you could. Right? So again, gird yourselves with your sword. Now again, I will say, with the Gemara Darshans over here, it sounds like this is getting ready for battle. In fact, the Gemara points out they're actually getting ready for judgment. So David HaMelech is getting ready to adjudicate the case. So he says, go ahead and gird yourself with your swords. And then it says, Vayach gird David games charbo. David HaMelech also went ahead and girded himself with the sword. Meaning, so what do you see from here? If girding yourself is a reference to judgment, David essentially says to the other guys, go ahead and judge first, and then I'll judge afterwards. Incredible. Okay, so the Gemara goes weiter. Good. Amarav. Shona al Tamid. This will say, so that's the first halakha, right? So now we've established, we've just brought a biblical source for this concept that when it comes to capital cases, we go ahead and we start what we call minat sad. Literally again from the side, but of course from the side meaning from the junior judges. Amarav. Shona al Tamido. V'dan imo b'dinei nefasha. So a very interesting case over here. So Rav says, a person could teach something to his student and then adjudicate with him even in a capital case. Now, what does this mean? Take a look at Rashi. Shona adlon tamido. It's 3 lines up from before it gets wide. Umar lo panim l'zchus u'lechova b'sochadin v'dan imo v'nimna imo ol l'zchus u'lechova umatin hadin al pia talmud kacham enadas. Listen to this. So let's say you have a beis din, and on the beis din is a Rebbe and his Talmud. The Rebbe can help the Talmud understand certain concepts, but yet the Talmud then is empowered to go ahead and put forward an opinion, and his opinion is counted. What's the novelty here? I would have thought that if Rebbe and the Talmud are on the beis din, which is fine by itself, but if the Rebbe is like educating the Talmud in the course of this process, doesn't that sound like the Rebbe is potentially slanting the opinion of the Talmud, right? Because obviously the Rebbe is saying, I'm going to tell you why Reuven is really chayiv to Shimon. So again, it's fantastic. It's Rebbe teaching his Talmud, but I don't know that teaching the Talmud is that should take place in the context of a din Torah for dinei nefashos or dinei mamonos. Yet the Gemara says it's okay. Even if a Rebbe is teaching his Talmud how to go ahead and adjudicate this particular case, the Talmud's opinion is still counted. So the Gemara says, really? Meisvei hataros v'atameos ha'avu b'no harav v'tamid ha'modin lan shnayim. So also when it comes to paskening on taros and tameos, so a father and a son, or Rebbe and his Talmud are counted like two opinions. They both say, now the truth is, that's not a novelty. Remember again, what do you need to paskin on taros and tameos? What do you need? You don't need a beis din. You just need a Rav or a Talmud Chacham. You just need someone who knows what they're talking about. So the Gemara says, so of course a father and a son, Rebbe and a Talmud can pass on Tumah and Tara, because Tumah and Tara doesn't need a beis din. Tumah and Tara can be passed by one. The Gemara says, on the other hand, Dinei Mamonis, Dinei Nefashis, the Dinei Makas, but again, monetary law, capital law, Malkus, any cases involving lashes, Kiddush HaChol, sanctification of the new month, V'Iber Shana, intercalation of the year, right, leap year, Avu Beno, Harav V'Talmido, Ein Monin Lahed Ela Echad. In those cases, if a father and son are together, or Rebbe and a Talmud are together, their opinion is only counted as one. Right? They are counted as one. They cannot count as two distinct opinions. This contradicts what Rav just said before, right? Rav said that if you have a Rebbe and a Talmud together on a beis din, even if the Rebbe is mamish teaching the Talmud as they're going through the din Torah, their opinions count as two opinions. The Brisa clearly indicates to us that if a Rebbe and a Talmud are sitting on a beis din, whether for monetary law or capital law, their opinions only count as one. So what's going on over here? Amit Ben David Levy, Ki kama Rav, when Rav said that a Rebbe and a Talmud, their opinions are counted as two, Ki kama Rav, Kigon Rav Kahana, V'Rav Asi, the Ligmare de Rav Havutzrichi, or Savre de Rav Lo Havutzrichi. So ultimately, again, so the Gemara says, you're right. What are we talking about? What was Rav talking about? He's talking about like Rav Kahana, Rav Asi. Rav Kahana, Rav Asi, they needed a Rebbe. Now, why did they need their Rebbe? Because the Rebbe gave them information. But they did not need their Rebbe for analysis. So in this kind of case, where the Rebbe provides information, but not analysis, right? Analysis is not necessary. Then ultimately, again, that's where halacha l'maisa, the Rebbe in the Talmud could count as two, right? It makes sense because here, all the Rebbe is giving information, but the processing, the analyzing of that information is not coming from the Rebbe. That's coming from the Talmud. That's where the Rebbe and Talmud could count as two distinct opinions. When the Rebbe is providing information and analysis, that's halacha l'maisa again, where the Rebbe and Talmud count as one opinion. Fascinating. So the Gemara says again, they needed the information from the Rebbe, or the savre derav lo havutzrichi, but they did not need analysis. Analysis came from on their own. Rabbi Avo. He always says like this: Asar dvarim yesh bein dinim amos dinim nefashas. So remember again, Rabbi Avo says like this: based on our Mishnah, we saw the Mishnah really espouse 10 distinctions, 10 differences between dinei mamanis and dinei nefashas, right? 10 differences between monetary law and capital law. All right, so the Gemara says, "V'kulon ein noagin b'shar haniskal chutz me'esim mishlosha." But interestingly enough, I will say, none of these distinctions do not apply to a shar niskal. Now again, what's a shar niskal? Shar niskal is a shar that killed someone, and therefore itself is going to be executed. So again, halacha l'maisa, so even though shar niskal would seem to fit into the dinei nefashas category, but all of the distinctions between dinei mamanis and dinei nefashas don't apply to shar niskal, except from esim mishlosha, except for the fact that a shar niskal is also adjudicated by a basin of 23. That's halacha, by basin of 23. So the Gemara says, from where do we know this? If you look at Rashi, by the way, Rashi says over Kulan Einoagin Bedin Shar Niskal Lios Shavla Dine Nefashas Afapi Shamana Parakamon Le'inyan Es Mushlosha Kimisas Bailim Kach Misas Ashar. So we'll say, here's what's interesting. We started process this back on Beis Medalef, incredible. So now again, back on Beis Medalef, what did we see? That halacha l'maisa Shar HaNiskal is treated like a capital case. In other words, we treat the shar like we would treat its owner. So just like if its owner was liable to a death penalty, it would be tried by a basin of 23. So too the shar haniskal is judged by a basin of 23. But halacha l'maisa, that's kind of where the comparisons end. So the Gemara says, so from where do we know this? Really interesting Gemara. Amar v'acha bar papa damakra lo sate mishpat avyoncha berivo. So we'll say the pasuk says, do not go ahead and literally alter or slant the judgment of the avyon, of the impoverished person, berivo, during his fight. Mishpat avyoncha iatamata. So you can't go ahead and be mata. You can't go ahead and slant the mishpat of an avyon. Ava atamata mishpat shel shar haniskal. Ultimately, again, but you can slant the judgment of a shar haniskal. Now, what does that mean? Take a look at Rashi again. Rashi says, lo sata, l'ra'a api eid echad. So it says, remember again, what it means is, lo sata means like this. We've seen this before. When adjudicating a capital case, remember again, capital cases cannot be decided based on a majority of one. You need a minimum majority of 2 in order to convict someone in a capital case. So that's the lashon of lo sata. Do not slant judgment of the avyon berivo. In other words, you cannot convict someone in a capital case on a majority of 1. But you can go ahead and do that for shar haniskal. So in other words, what the Gemara is pointing out over here is that even though shar haniskal, right, the ox that's going to be killed because he killed someone, is treated like a capital case in certain respects, namely that it's adjudicated by a basin of 23, it's not treated like a capital case in other respects. So, for example, whereas normally you need a majority of 2 in order to go ahead and convict someone in a capital case, By Shahanisko, you only need a majority of one. Okay, so Rashi finishes up over here. Rashi says, right, l'ra api edechad va'atamata lechova din asher api edechad u'miyacha gamer lekulu ma'alos telo nehi'i chutz michav gimel. Fine, so let's go weiter. So Gemara says, 1 second. Asara, you just pointed out that there are 10 distinctions ultimately again between dinei mamanis and dinei nefashas. Is that so? Is that so that there are 10? So the Gemara says, ha teshavu. There are only 9. There are only 9 distinctions, to which the Gemara says, ha sarkatam. It's not the Mishnah, but no, it's not true. The Mishnah indicates 10. So why is saying 9? Mishum de'ena kol ksherin ve'eser mishlosha chadahi. So because we're going to see the notion that not everyone is fit to adjudicate a capital case, right? Which, by the way, we're going to see really excludes a mamzer, right? That a mamzer is not fit to go ahead and adjudicate a capital case. And the obligation to have a basin of 23 are really learned out from the same source. So because those two are learned out from the same source, on one hand, they're reckoned as 2, right? But they're really also looked at as 1 because they derive from the same source. Chadahi. So the Gemara says as follows. If you take a look, good, fine. Good. Chadi. Take a look at Rashi. Hatishava. Sigmar Seva. Hadar Parkinan as Akifin Vaha Yutnan Muasim. Va'amra Haide Kashilan Taz Hav Mishum De'ena Kol Ksherin Vesim Mishlosha Chadihi. The might time a mamzer possible in Din Nefashas. So we'll say. So when we say that not everyone is fit to adjudicate a capital case, who are we referring to? We're excluding a mamzer. Why is a mamzer not fit to adjudicate a capital case? Mishum deba'inan chav gimel dahainu Sanhedrin. Ubi Sanhedrin ksiv v'nasu itcha b'dom lecha. So we're going to see, because again, for capital cases you need 23. 23 is called the Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin must be made up of people who are genealogically fit. We'll see this. We saw this already, but we'll do this again. So therefore, I'm going to say it's the same pasuk. The same pasuk that teaches me that I need 23 for a capital case is also the same pasuk that I need someone who's genealogically fit, and therefore excludes a mamzer. So because you have 2 out of the 10 that are effectively learned out from the same source, it's tempting to say that the 2 are really 1. That's why some will say the Mishnah lists 10 distinctions, others say that the Mishnah lists 9 distinctions. Okay. So the Gemara says as follows. So the Gemara says, ha'ika achrisi. But we'll say, but 1 second, there is another distinction, right? The other situation is that, another person, or another distinction between din and nefashas, din and mamas, right? The Mishnah said that there are 10 distinctions between monetary law and capital law. The Gemara now wants to suggest there's really 11. What's the 11th? There's another person, or another group who are fit for monetary law, but not fit for capital cases. Who are those individuals? The Gemara says, Desanya, here we go. This is fascinating. Ein moshivin beSanhedrin. The following people cannot serve on a Sanhedrin, which means when we say can't serve on a Sanhedrin, what does that mean? What does that mean? Can't adjudicate capital cases. Because that's what we need a Sanhedrin for. I mean, in a Sanhedrin for other things. The following people can't sit on a Sanhedrin. Who? Zakein, someone who's old. Sris, right? Someone who's sterile. Misha'im lo banim, someone who doesn't have children. So we'll say, so what's the pshat over here? What's wrong with these individuals? So if you take a look at Rashi, this is incredible. Rashi says, Zakein sheshachach kivar sar gidul banim ve'eno rachmani. So we'll say, someone who's old has forgotten what it's like to have young children. Now we'll say, what is the key quality one must possess when they have young children? The key quality? Right, sleep that right. To be able to live without stuff. No, the key quality you need is forgiveness. Is forgiveness. Because children do stuff all of the time. And a parent has to learn to be forgiving. It's not patience, because you have to have patience all of the time in life. So you don't just need their little kids. The person has to, people like to say patience is a virtue. Patience is not a virtue. Patience is a necessity. Forgiveness is the dominant quality because kids are doing stuff, breaking stuff. I had this. Chanukah Sabayis, again, Baruch Hashem, what a beautiful. See this little kid come into the shul from the social hall with a plate piled. It must have been like 6 inches high. 6 inches high. And he's so happy, so this. And I'm watching it. And it was like, one of those like slow motion moments where first the piece of chicken falls on the carpet, right? And again, it was like one of those moments also where like, like the slow motion where like things like bounce up and down and up and down. And then the first item falls off. And it's like the leaning tower of like Knishab. It was like, then the next thing, and this, and that. And the kid's like, he's like, happy. And literally, I'm ready to like run over. Like, where are these kids' parents? What is it? And the truth is, it's mamish just a kid having a good time. It's the Ribono Shel Olam's child in the Ribono Shel Olam's new home, which was clean until about 3 minutes beforehand, right? And again, you know what? So with little children, the most important quality is forgiveness. If a judge doesn't possess the ability to have this midah of forgiveness instilled within him, then again, and it's forgiveness. It's really forgiveness. Maybe it's even the wrong word, forgiveness. It's really understanding. Understanding. If you don't have that midah of understanding, you can't be a judge. You can't be a judge, right? In other words, you will say, what's the problem? Sometimes when a person doesn't have that midah of understanding, everything has to be their way, right? Everything has to go their way. I need it the way I want it. I need it the way there has to be like this. So if you don't have that midah of understanding, if you're rigid and everything just has to be the way that you want, don't be a judge. Really, don't be anything, right? Right? Balamaisa, that level of rigidity, then it's not good. We can't have that. We need people who could be understanding. We need people who could be forgiving. We need people who could be a little bit malleable and understand different circumstances in different ways. So therefore, again, the zaken, you haven't had young kids in your house for a long time, don't be a judge, because you're probably going to be too rigid, too set in your ways, and it's probably not a good idea to have you on the Beis Din. Same idea. The person never had children. Misha in Labanim. Rabbi Yehuda Mosif is incredible. Rabbi Yehuda also adds in over here, Af Achzari. Someone who's cruel. Right? Or just, cruel is even a strong word. Just someone who has just like a very cold and a different temperament. A yaka, right? In other words, someone again who just is very almost stoic, emotionless. Again, I'll say it's an incredible thing. On one hand, judgment needs to be dispassionate. So it says it's very important. Judgment needs to be dispassionate. But at the end of the day, a yid can never be dispassionate. Right? I have to have the ability to look at things in an analytical. I have to look at facts. But facts divorced from emotion, that's not the way of the Jew. Nothing is divorced from emotion. Emotion has to be there for everything. So if a judge is a shtickal achzori, right? He's a little bit indifferent, a little bit cruel, a little bit passionless, emotionless. So don't be a judge. There are other places for you. But don't be a judge. But interestingly enough, the chilufei and b'mesis. I will say the exact opposite is true when it comes to mesis. Now remember, again, we always see this, right? What's a mesis? Mesis is the guy who tries to get other people to be oved avodah zarah. So that person, we throw the book at him. So for him, we should have the most cruel and indifferent judges, or not literally, but you understand. From him, we don't need the understanding of the judges because remember, again, the whole system is in capital cases the system is rigged, not rigged, but the system is positioned to exonerate the defendant. That's our goal. If we can get him off, that's our goal. When it comes to mesis, right? When it comes to someone who incites for avodah zarah, it's just the opposite. The system is there in order to indict him. Okay, incredible, I will say. Because okay, everyone is fit to adjudicate monetary cases. So I will say, what is hakol? What do we mean everyone? Who is that coming to include? Am Rav Yehuda la'asuyei mamzer. To include a mamzer. So we'll say, this is not a descriptive mamzer, this is a genealogical mamzer, right? So the idea over here is, so the idea is somebody who's a genealogical mamzer, so even, he's not fit for capital cases, right? Because remember again, capital cases require Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin requires genealogically fit people, but for monetary cases, he's absolutely fit. So the word says, okay, we learned this already. Anyone who is fit for capital cases is fit for monetary cases. I will say, but there are some people who are fit for monetary cases, but they're not fit to adjudicate capital cases. We said, who is that? Who is the person who is fit for a monetary case but not fit for a capital case? Ultimately, again, to go ahead and include a mamzer. So the Gemara says, you're right, chada la'asuye ger, v'chada la'asuye mamzer. In reality, again, one teaching was to include a ger, the other was to include a mamzer. Now, we'll say, why do I need both? Utzrichi, I'll tell you, and I will say, so this is to say both a ger and the mamzer are both fit for monetary law, but not fit for capital cases. Now, why not? Utzrichi, the Ashmin and ger, if it would have just told me that a ger ultimately is fit for monetary cases, the right level of bakal. Because a ger has no marriage restrictions. So he's a full-fledged Jew in terms of his marriage abilities. Of a mamzer imalo, but a mamzer can't marry into the General Assembly. So maybe a mamzer is unfit even for monetary cases. Biashmin and a mamzer, and if we would have just said mamzer, the bamitiba kshira, this passage will say a mamzer comes from an illicit relationship. But as much as it's an illicit relationship, who are his parents? Two Jews. Right? So it's Yiddish blood. It's incredible. Two Jews. It's an illicit relationship, but his parents are Jewish. He comes literally from a kosher drop. But a ger who doesn't come from, right, comes from a non-Jewish parents, I would have thought that perhaps he's not even fit for monetary law. Therefore, again, tzricha. So Rabbi will say, one comes to teach me that halacha l'maisa ger, the other part comes to teach me that a mamzer. Both are fit for monetary law, but neither are fit for capital cases. So Rabbi will say, we'll stop over for today. Just a logistical announcement. At the end of davening, we'll just ask you if you could take your chair and just put it, just whatever chair you're using, or even the one next to you, you could just put it against the wall. There's them coming to pick up the chairs. Rabbi will say, so today is our last shir in this Pesach Knesset. Hopefully by Mincha Ma'ariv, we will be in the new shul. Stay tuned. Emir Hashem for an answer. We'll say, just setting expectations. Change is always difficult, and especially again after you settle into a certain schedule, a certain atmosphere, a certain framework for a number of years. Any change, even if it's a better change, always comes with some level of turbulence. I don't necessarily have the seat that I wanted. I don't necessarily have the stender that I wanted. Right? The perfect setup that I had for myself, is now no longer. And it's tempting sometimes when that happens to feel like the sky is falling. I will say change always has turbulence. That's the way that it is. So you have a choice in life. The choice in life is don't change, never have any turbulence, and just stay where you are. Or embrace the change, lean into the change. Recognize that, at the beginning it's a little bit rocky and maybe even a little bit uncomfortable, but it's going to open the door for incredibly beautiful, magnificent things. It's going to take everyone a little bit of time to find their makom, to find their place. And at first you may not be happy with the makom that you get, and the good news is, just come earlier the next morning, right? And there's no set seats. So whoever I call them zachabal. Whatever you get, and it's yours. And it doesn't even if somebody else has their stuff on the shelf there, because we'll have the table. Again, it's open seating. It's like Southwest, right? It's so you could, right? So again, and I will say again, I know I made a lot of jokes about the Stender policy. I got it. I understand, and people like it, people don't like it. But I will say, we have such a zechus ahead of us. That tonight, by Mincha Ma'ariv, we're going to be davening in a brand new beis medrash. A brand new beis medrash that is beautiful, that is magnificent, that is incredible. But I will say, just let me have your attention just for 30 seconds. 30 seconds. I will say, it is so important for us to be able to take a step back and say, Hodu la'Hashem ki tov ki le'olam chasdo. We literally have a mini mikdash waiting over there for us. Does it check every single box? Does it give every single person every single thing they need? And I know everyone's going to have comments and critiques and suggestions and this and that, and it's all welcome. Menachem cannot wait to hear them from you, Amir Hashem. Right? All welcome. I will say, but sometimes what you just need to say is Zachinu. We've been Zochet to Baruch Hashem, be housed in this Mikdash Ma'at, this Kila, for close to 70 years. And the walls and the roof and this units, everything has served us to the best of their ability. Sometimes I think that when we complain about this is not working, the heat's not working, the air conditioning is not working, I feel like if the building had a voice, if this mikdash had a voice, you know what she would say? She would say, I promise you, I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best. I'm giving you 150%. But 150% of a 70-year-old building is only going to get you so far. She has given us her best years for close to 7 decades. Now, Baruch Hashem, we're about to go to a new mother. We're about to go to a new Mikdash Ma'at. And let's treat her well. Let's love her. Let's embrace her. Let's enjoy our time with her. And even if, again, in the beginning, it's a little bit whatever, and maybe there's going to be a piece of me that says, oh, I wish I could just go back to what was. That's the Yetzer Hara talking. Because there's only one direction for a Yid, and that's forward. So something beautiful is waiting for us. Tonight. I apologize in advance for any of the inconveniences that may occur, but know that the inconveniences are only temporary, they're only episodic, they're short-lived, and they will pave the way for something incredibly great. It has been a zechus to be able to go through Shas two and a half times here in this Beis HaKnesses. 2.5 times in this Beis HaKnesses. In Eretz Hashem. And we should be zochem Hashem to come tomorrow morning. We continue our daf journey next door. There should be zochem Hashem to complete the cycle many times together. Rosai, Shigayach.